In the early months of 1944, as the German military consolidated its control over France, a peculiar phenomenon began to unfold along the vital railway lines connecting Paris to Bordeaux. These railways, arteries of commerce and military logistics, were essential for transporting troops, ammunition, and supplies critical to the Nazi war effort. Yet, reports began to surface that supply trains, laden with vital cargo, were mysteriously vanishing without a trace. This unsettling trend baffled German officers, who were accustomed to the efficiency of their supply chains and the oversight of the Reichsbahn, the German railway authority. The German command, confident in their dominion over the French rail system, initially dismissed these incidents as mere logistical errors or the work of isolated saboteurs. The idea that their well-oiled machine could falter seemed absurd. In their minds, the railways were a symbol of their control, a network that had been seamlessly integrated into the broader operations of the Third Reich. However, as the reports of missing trains continued to mount, the skepticism of the German officers began to give way to frustration and urgency. In Paris, the heart of the French railway network, officers scrutinized schedules and manifests, poring over maps and timetables in search of a pattern or an explanation for the inexplicable. They convened meetings in dimly lit offices, their faces etched with concern as they discussed the implications of these disappearances. Each train that vanished represented not just a loss of supplies but a potential threat to the German war effort, particularly as the Wehrmacht faced increasing challenges on the Eastern Front against the Soviet Union. Meanwhile, the French populace, living under the weight of occupation, observed these developments with a mix of curiosity and trepidation. The occupation had imposed a heavy burden on daily life, marked by rationing, curfews, and the omnipresent shadow of German soldiers. Yet, beneath the surface, a quiet defiance was beginning to take root. The vanishing trains, while a source of consternation for the occupiers, sparked a glimmer of hope among those yearning for liberation. As summer approached, the German command's disbelief began to wane, replaced by an acute awareness of the threat posed by these disruptions. Supplies intended for the Eastern Front were not reaching their destinations, and the implications for military operations were dire. The urgency to uncover the truth behind the missing trains intensified, yet the German officers remained at a loss. Their investigations yielded little more than dead ends, and the French railway workers, who toiled under the watchful eyes of their occupiers, seemed to carry on with their duties without incident. Unbeknownst to the Germans, a clandestine network was beginning to form, one that would challenge their authority and alter the course of the war in France. To understand the significance of the vanishing supply trains, it is essential to grasp the broader context of life in occupied France during World War II. Following the swift and brutal defeat of French forces in 1940, the country was divided into zones of occupation, with the northern and western regions, including Paris, under direct German control. The southern zone, known as the Free Zone, was nominally governed by the Vichy regime, which collaborated with the Nazis. This division created a complex landscape of resistance and collaboration, where the daily lives of civilians were profoundly affected by the realities of occupation. The French railway system, once a symbol of national pride and connectivity, became a tool of oppression under German control. The Reichsbahn sought to maximize the efficiency of the railways for military purposes, repurposing trains to transport troops and supplies to the front lines. This transformation came at a cost to the French populace, who faced severe restrictions on travel and the availability of goods. Rationing became a way of life, with civilians forced to navigate a landscape of scarcity and uncertainty. In this environment, the railway workers found themselves in a unique position. Many had been employed in the rail industry long before the German invasion, and their intimate knowledge of the rail system made them invaluable assets. They were acutely aware of the schedules, routes, and vulnerabilities of the network, and as the occupation wore on, a sense of solidarity began to emerge among them. The workers understood that their labor was being exploited to support a regime that had brought suffering and hardship to their homeland. The formation of the clandestine network known as Resistance Fair can be traced back to the early months of 1944, as the realities of occupation settled over France. The group was composed of railway workers who shared a common goal: to disrupt the German supply chain and aid the broader resistance movement. Operating in secrecy, they relied on coded messages, clandestine meetings, and a deep-seated trust among their members. In time, the railway workers found themselves at the forefront of a burgeoning resistance movement. The tactics employed by Resistance Fair were as varied as they were effective. Mislabeling shipments, blocking sidings, and tampering with signals became part of their repertoire. These acts of sabotage, while seemingly small in scale, had a profound impact on the occupiers' ability to maintain their supply lines. The railway workers understood that each act of defiance, no matter how minor, contributed to a larger struggle against oppression. By the summer of 1944, the efforts of Resistance Fair began to bear fruit. Reports of missing trains became more frequent, each one a testament to the growing effectiveness of the network. The German command, still grappling with the inexplicable losses, remained largely unaware of the true nature of the threat they faced. The railway workers, operating under the constant threat of discovery and reprisal, were driven by a deep-seated desire for freedom, a yearning that resonated throughout occupied France. In this context, the vanishing trains became more than just logistical anomalies. They symbolized the resilience of the French spirit in the face of tyranny. The actions of Resistance Fair were not merely acts of sabotage, they were a manifestation of collective resistance, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit could not be extinguished. By the end of that year, the network stood poised to play a pivotal role in the fight for France's liberation, setting the stage for a confrontation that would reshape the course of history. As 1944 dawned, the actions of Resistance Fair intensified, marking the beginning of a concerted campaign of sabotage that would leave the German military command increasingly frustrated and bewildered. The railway workers, emboldened by their successes, executed a series of daring operations designed to disrupt the flow of supplies and reinforcements to the front lines. The methods employed by Resistance Fair were as ingenious as they were effective. Tampering with brakes, rerouting shipments to hidden depots, and even derailing trains became part of their repertoire. Each act of sabotage was meticulously planned and executed, often under the cover of darkness, to avoid detection by the ever-watchful eyes of the occupiers. The workers utilized their intimate knowledge of the rail system, exploiting weaknesses in the German logistics network that had been built on the assumption of absolute control. The impact of these operations was immediate and profound. Trains that should have arrived at their destinations vanished, leaving behind only confusion and anger among the German ranks. The Wehrmacht, already stretched thin by the demands of the Eastern Front and the looming threat of an Allied invasion, found itself increasingly vulnerable. The disruption of supply lines not only affected troop morale but also strained logistics, leading to a cascading effect on military campaigns. Fuel shortages became common, and ammunition supplies dwindled, forcing commanders to make difficult choices about troop deployments. For the German officers tasked with maintaining order, the situation was becoming untenable. Each new report of a missing train was met with a growing sense of urgency and desperation. Investigations were launched, interrogations conducted, yet the railway workers remained elusive, their network hidden in plain sight. The Germans, accustomed to the rigid hierarchy of military command, struggled to comprehend the fluid and decentralized nature of the resistance network. It was a battle of wits, with the railway workers always seeming to be one step ahead. The success of Resistance Fair was due in no small part to the support they received from the broader French resistance movement. Coded messages and clandestine meetings allowed for the coordination of efforts, ensuring that each operation was executed with precision. The railway workers, once seen as mere laborers, had become key players in the fight against occupation, their actions inspiring others to join the cause. As spring of 1944 gave way to summer, the scale of the sabotage became impossible to ignore. The German command, now acutely aware of the threat posed by Resistance Wehr, faced a growing sense of paranoia and desperation. The railway workers, undeterred by the increased scrutiny, continued their campaign, each successful operation a testament to their resilience and ingenuity. The confrontation between Resistance Wehr and the German occupiers was a microcosm of the broader struggle for liberation. It was a battle fought not with guns and bombs, but with wits and determination. In one notable operation, a group of railway workers managed to derail a troop train carrying reinforcements to the front lines. The train, filled with soldiers and supplies, was forced off the tracks by a carefully placed obstruction, resulting in a chaotic scene that left the German command scrambling to respond. The loss of personnel and equipment was a significant blow, and the incident sent shockwaves through the ranks of the Wehrmacht. When the summer of 1944 approached, the stakes grew even higher. The Allies were preparing for the D-Day invasion, and the German military was acutely aware that their supply lines were critical to their ability to respond effectively. The sabotage operations of Resistance Wehr became increasingly bold, with the railway workers targeting not only troop trains but also supply convoys and logistics hubs. The disruption of these operations was not merely a nuisance. It was a strategic blow that threatened the very foundation of German military operations in France. The German response to this escalating sabotage was one of increased repression. Military police were deployed to patrol the railways, and curfews were imposed on railway workers. The atmosphere of fear and suspicion grew, with officers conducting random searches and interrogations in an attempt to root out the saboteurs. Yet, the more the Germans tightened their grip, the more determined the resistance became. The railway workers, aware of the risks, continued their operations, driven by a shared sense of purpose and a commitment to their cause. The resilience of the Resistance Wehr was evident in their ability to adapt to the changing circumstances. When one method of sabotage was thwarted, they quickly devised new strategies to maintain their momentum. They utilized the cover of civilian life to blend in, often working alongside their German overseers while secretly plotting their next move. The railway workers became adept at using the very infrastructure they were meant to maintain as a weapon against their occupiers. The confrontation reached a critical point in June 1944, coinciding with the Allied invasion of Normandy. When the Allies launched their assault, the German military found itself stretched even thinner, with resources diverted to respond to the invasion. The actions of Resistance Wehr during this pivotal moment were crucial in further complicating the German response. The railway workers executed a series of coordinated sabotage operations that disrupted troop movements and supply lines, creating chaos at a time when the Wehrmacht could least afford it. The culmination of these efforts was felt in the days following D-Day, as the German command struggled to regroup and respond to the rapidly changing battlefield. The sabotage operations of Resistance Wehr had not only delayed supplies but also instilled a sense of uncertainty and fear among German troops. The realization that they were vulnerable to attacks from within their own ranks added to the psychological strain on soldiers already facing the realities of war. As the summer of 1944 wore on, the effect of the sabotage campaign became increasingly evident. The German military, once a symbol of strength and control, was now grappling with the consequences of a determined resistance. The railway workers of Resistance Wehr had become a formidable force, their actions a testament to the power of collective resistance against oppression. The confrontation between the occupiers and the occupied had reached a critical juncture, setting the stage for the eventual liberation of France. As the calendar turned to 1944, the German officers stationed in France found themselves grappling with a perplexing enigma. The disappearance of supply trains between Paris and Bordeaux had become an undeniable pattern, a mystery that demanded resolution. The German command, initially dismissive, now faced the uncomfortable reality that their supply lines were under siege by an unseen enemy. The stakes were high, and the pressure to unmask the saboteurs intensified. The German response was swift and severe. They launched a series of investigations, deploying military police and intelligence officers to scour the railways for clues. The search was exhaustive, with officers poring over timetables, inspecting rail yards, and interrogating railway workers. Yet, the Resistance Wehr had anticipated such scrutiny. They operated with a level of secrecy and coordination that belied their humble origins. Meetings were held in the dead of night, in secluded barns or abandoned stations, where plans were whispered and strategies devised. The railway workers communicated through a sophisticated network of coded messages, often hidden in plain sight. A seemingly innocuous chalk mark on a station wall, a misplaced lantern, or a subtle alteration in a train schedule could convey vital information. These signals allowed the resistance to coordinate their efforts, ensuring that each act of sabotage was executed with precision. The Germans, accustomed to the rigid hierarchy of military command, struggled to comprehend the fluid and decentralized nature of the resistance network. Despite the German efforts, the Resistance Wehr remained elusive. Their intimate knowledge of the rail system, coupled with their ability to blend into the civilian population, made them difficult to detect. The Germans, accustomed to dictating terms, found themselves reacting to the initiatives of a determined resistance. It was a battle of wits, with the railway workers always seeming to be one step ahead. The turning point came in the spring of 1944, when a German officer stumbled upon a hidden depot in the countryside near Tours. Inside, he found a cache of supplies that had been rerouted from their intended destinations. The discovery was a revelation, confirming the existence of an organized effort to disrupt the German supply chain. Yet, even as the Germans closed in, the Resistance Wehr adapted, shifting their operations and redoubling their efforts. The exposure of the hidden network was a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of the French resistance. It was a moment of triumph, a validation of their efforts and a blow to the occupiers. The revelation sent shockwaves through the German command, forcing them to confront the reality of widespread local defiance. The railway workers, once dismissed as inconsequential, had emerged as formidable adversaries, their actions a testament to the power of collective resistance. In the wake of this revelation, the German command intensified their efforts to dismantle the network. Raids were conducted on suspected safe houses, and railway workers were arrested and interrogated. The atmosphere of fear and paranoia grew, yet the Resistance Wehr remained undeterred. The workers understood the risks they faced, but their commitment to the cause outweighed the dangers. They continued to operate in secrecy, their resolve strengthened by the knowledge that their actions were making a difference. The exposure of the network also had a profound impact on the broader resistance movement in France. The success of the Resistance Wehr inspired other groups to adopt similar tactics, leading to a surge in sabotage operations across the country. The railway workers had become a symbol of defiance, their actions galvanizing support for the resistance and fostering a sense of unity among the French populace. The revelation of their hidden network served as a rallying cry, encouraging others to join the fight against occupation. As the summer of 1944 approached, the German command found itself in a precarious position. The cumulative effect of the sabotage operations, combined with the exposure of the hidden network, had begun to shift the balance of power. The Wehrmacht, once a dominant force, was now grappling with the consequences of a determined resistance. The railway workers of Resistance Wehr had become a formidable adversary, their actions a testament to the power of collective resistance against oppression. As the summer of 1944 unfolded, the consequences of the relentless sabotage orchestrated by the Resistance Wehr began to manifest in ways that were both immediate and far-reaching. The German military, no longer confident in their control over occupied France, had found themselves grappling with a crisis that threatened to unravel their carefully constructed supply chains. The effect of the missing trains reverberated through the ranks of the Wehrmacht, creating a ripple effect that would alter the course of the war. The immediate consequences of the sabotage were stark. Reports of missing trains surged, each incident a blow to the German command's credibility. The supplies that were supposed to bolster the front line's ammunition, food, fuel were now lost in the vast expanse of the French countryside. Soldiers, who had already endured years of grueling combat, faced the harsh reality of dwindling resources. The morale of the troops began to wane, as whispers of discontent spread among the ranks. Soldiers, no longer proud of their role in the Wehrmacht, began to question their leadership and the efficacy of their mission. The logistical nightmares created by the resistance Wehr extended beyond mere shortages. The disruption of supply lines forced German commanders to rethink their strategies, leading to delays in planned offensives and a re-evaluation of troop deployments. The Wehrmacht, which had prided itself on its operational efficiency, found itself in a precarious position, struggling to adapt to an enemy that operated from the shadows. The once unshakable confidence of the German military was now tinged with uncertainty, as they faced an adversary that utilized cunning and resourcefulness to undermine their efforts. In the broader context of the war, the sabotage operations of the resistance Wehr played a pivotal role in the lead-up to the Allied invasion of Normandy, known as D-Day. As Allied forces prepared to launch their assault, the disruptions to German supply lines weakened the occupiers' ability to respond effectively. The chaos sown by the railway workers created an environment of confusion, allowing the Allies to gain a crucial foothold in France. The actions of the resistance Wehr were not merely acts of defiance, they were strategic maneuvers that contributed to the larger Allied war effort. However, the consequences of the sabotage were not without moral dilemmas. The railway workers, while fighting for their country's liberation, faced the harsh reality of their actions. Each act of sabotage carried the potential for collateral damage, endangering the lives of innocent civilians who relied on the railways for transportation and sustenance. The moral weight of their choices weighed heavily on the members of Resistance Wehr, who grappled with the implications of their actions. They were acutely aware that their fight against the occupiers could inadvertently harm their fellow countrymen, creating a conflict between their desire for liberation and their responsibility to protect their community. As the summer progressed, the German response to the sabotage became increasingly brutal. In an attempt to quell the growing resistance, the occupiers launched retaliatory measures, conducting raids on suspected resistance hideouts and arresting railway workers. The atmosphere of fear and repression intensified, as the Germans sought to reassert their authority. Yet, rather than stifling the spirit of resistance, these actions only fueled the resolve of the French people. The brutality of the occupiers served as a rallying cry, galvanizing support for the resistance and reinforcing the belief that liberation was within reach. The turning point of the summer of 1944 marked a significant moment in the struggle for French liberation. The consequences of the resistance Wehr's actions extended beyond the immediate disruptions to supply lines. They reshaped the very fabric of resistance in France. The railway workers had become symbols of defiance, inspiring others to join the fight against occupation. The collective actions of the resistance Wehr not only challenged the German military, but also ignited a sense of unity among the French populace, fostering a spirit of collaboration that transcended social and economic divides. As the Allied forces prepared for their invasion, the effect of the resistance Wehr was felt across the battlefield. The disruptions they had sown in the German supply lines created a strategic advantage for the Allies, allowing them to exploit weaknesses in the occupiers' defenses. The railway workers, through their acts of sabotage, had become integral players in the larger narrative of the war, their contributions a testament to the power of ordinary people to effect extraordinary change. The aftermath of the summer of 1944 was marked by profound transformation, both for the resistance Wehr and for France as a whole. As the Allied forces launched their invasion of Normandy, the cumulative effects of the sabotage operations began to bear fruit, leading to a rapid unraveling of German control over the region. The railway workers, who had once operated in the shadows, were now celebrated as heroes, their actions a catalyst for change in the fight for liberation. In the wake of the invasion, the German military found itself in a state of disarray. The disruptions to their supply lines, compounded by the Allied assault, left them vulnerable and unable to mount an effective defense. The Wehrmacht, once a formidable force, was now reeling from the combined pressures of resistance and military engagement. The transformation was palpable. The balance of power had shifted, and the occupiers were on the defensive. For the members of the Resistance Wehr, the aftermath of their actions brought both triumph and trepidation. They had succeeded in their mission to disrupt the German supply chain, but the reality of liberation was fraught with uncertainty. The railway workers were acutely aware that their fight was not just against the occupiers but also for the future of their country. The question of what would come next loomed large, as the prospect of liberation brought with it the complexities of rebuilding a nation torn apart by war. The transformation of the French resistance was not limited to the railway workers. The success of the Resistance Wehr inspired a wave of activism across the country. Citizens from all walks of life began to engage in acts of defiance, whether through providing shelter to fleeing resistance fighters, disseminating information, or participating in protests against the occupiers. The spirit of collaboration that had emerged during the summer of 1944 fostered a sense of unity among the French populace, as they recognized that their collective efforts were essential to reclaiming their sovereignty. However, the aftermath of liberation was not without its challenges. As the German forces retreated, the question of accountability arose. The actions of the occupiers had left deep scars on the French landscape, and the process of healing would require addressing the complexities of collaboration and resistance. The railway workers, who had risked their lives to fight against tyranny, now faced the daunting task of navigating the moral ambiguities of a post-war society. The lines between heroism and complicity were often blurred, and the struggle for justice would be a long and arduous journey. In the broader context of the war, the transformation of the Resistance Wehr served as a powerful reminder of the impact of grassroots movements in shaping history. Their actions had not only disrupted the German military but had also inspired a sense of agency among the French people. The railway workers, once seen as mere laborers, had emerged as key players in the fight for liberation, their contributions a testament to the power of collective action. As France began to rebuild in the aftermath of liberation, the enduring legacy of the Resistance Wehr became a source of pride and inspiration. Monuments were erected in their honor, and their stories were woven into the fabric of national identity. The railway workers, who had once operated in secrecy, were now celebrated as symbols of resilience and courage. Their actions served as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the spirit of resistance could not be extinguished. The transformation of the Resistance Wehr was not just a story of sabotage and defiance, it was a narrative of hope and renewal. The railway workers had played a pivotal role in the struggle for liberation, their actions a catalyst for change that resonated far beyond the confines of the railway system. As France emerged from the shadows of occupation, the enduring legacy of the Resistance Wehr would continue to inspire future generations to stand up against oppression and fight for justice. The aftermath of the summer of 1944 marked a turning point in the history of France. The actions of the Resistance Wehr had not only disrupted the German war effort but had also transformed the landscape of resistance in the country. The railway workers, through their courage and ingenuity, had become symbols of defiance, their legacy a testament to the enduring power of ordinary people to effect extraordinary change. In the aftermath of World War II, as Europe began to rebuild from the ashes of conflict, the enduring legacy of the Resistance Wehr emerged as a powerful symbol of French resilience and ingenuity during the occupation. Their efforts, once shrouded in secrecy, were now celebrated as a testament to the indomitable spirit of the French people. The railway workers, who had risked everything to disrupt the German supply lines, were hailed as heroes, their stories woven into the broader narrative of the French resistance. The enduring legacy of the Resistance Wehr was not just about the trains they derailed or the supplies they diverted. It was about the power of ordinary people to stand up against tyranny, to defy the odds and fight for their freedom. Their actions inspired future generations to remember the importance of resistance and to cherish the values of liberty and justice that they had fought so hard to defend. As France emerged from the war, the stories of the railway workers began to circulate widely. Newspapers, books, and documentaries chronicled their bravery and ingenuity, ensuring that their contributions would not be forgotten. The tales of sabotage and defiance became part of the national consciousness, instilling a sense of pride in the collective struggle against oppression. The narrative of the Resistance Fair was intertwined with the broader story of the French resistance, which included diverse groups and individuals united in their fight against the Nazi regime. In the years following the war, the French government recognized the importance of commemorating the sacrifices made by those who had resisted occupation. Monuments and memorials were erected in honor of the Resistance Fair and other resistance fighters. One notable example is the memorial located at the Gare de Lyon in Paris, which pays tribute to the railway workers who risked their lives to sabotage the German supply lines. These memorials serve as poignant reminders of the courage and determination of those who fought for freedom. The enduring legacy of the Resistance Fair also found its way into popular culture. Films, literature, and art began to reflect the stories of resistance fighters, portraying their struggles and triumphs in a way that resonated with audiences. The cinematic portrayal of the French resistance, particularly in films like The Army of Shadows and Le Grande Illusion, brought the stories of these unsung heroes to a wider audience, ensuring that their sacrifices would not be forgotten. In addition to cultural recognition, the enduring legacy of the Resistance Fair had a profound impact on French society. The actions of the railway workers inspired a sense of unity and purpose among the French population, galvanizing support for the resistance movement during the war. This spirit of defiance continued to resonate in the post-war years, as the nation grappled with the challenges of rebuilding and redefining itself in the wake of occupation. The enduring legacy of the Resistance Fair also influenced the political landscape of post-war France. The resistance movement had demonstrated the power of collective action and the importance of standing up against tyranny. As the country transitioned from wartime to peacetime, the values of liberty, equality, and fraternity became central to the national identity. The experiences of the Resistance Fair and other resistance groups contributed to the establishment of a democratic government that sought to uphold these ideals. Moreover, the enduring legacy of the Resistance Fair extended beyond France's borders. The stories of resistance fighters became emblematic of the broader struggle against fascism and oppression in Europe. Their actions served as a source of inspiration for other nations grappling with the aftermath of war and occupation. The resilience demonstrated by the French resistance became a rallying cry for those seeking to reclaim their sovereignty and fight against tyranny in various forms. As the years passed, the memory of the Resistance Fair continued to be honored through annual commemorations and events. In many towns and cities across France, ceremonies are held to remember the sacrifices made by resistance fighters. These events serve as opportunities for reflection and education, ensuring that the lessons of the past are not forgotten. Schools incorporate the stories of the Resistance Fair into their curricula, teaching students about the importance of courage, solidarity, and the fight for justice. The enduring legacy of the Resistance Fair also found expression in the establishment of various organizations dedicated to preserving the memory of the resistance movement. These groups work to document the stories of resistance fighters, conduct research, and promote awareness of the historical significance of their actions. Through exhibitions, lectures, and publications, they strive to keep the memory of the Resistance Fair alive for future generations. In contemporary France, the enduring legacy of the Resistance Fair remains relevant as the nation grapples with new challenges. The values of resistance and defiance against oppression continue to resonate in a world where authoritarianism and injustice persist. The stories of the railway workers serve as a reminder that ordinary individuals can effect extraordinary change, inspiring new generations to stand up for their rights and fight against tyranny. The effect of the Resistance Fair on the collective memory of France cannot be overstated. Their actions during the war laid the groundwork for a society that values freedom and justice. The railway workers, who once toiled under the watchful eyes of their occupiers, became symbols of resistance, their legacy a testament to the power of ordinary people to challenge the forces of oppression. As we reflect on the enduring legacy of the Resistance Vert, we are reminded of the importance of vigilance and courage in the face of adversity. Their story is a call to action, a reminder that Norway's fight for freedom is never over, and that the power to effect change lies within each of us. The railway workers of the Resistance Vert have left an indelible mark on history, their legacy a testament to the enduring power of resistance. In conclusion, the enduring legacy of the Resistance Vert serves as a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. Their courage and ingenuity in the face of overwhelming odds continue to inspire those who seek justice and freedom. As we honor their memory, we must also commit ourselves to the values they fought for, ensuring that the lessons of the past guide us in our pursuit of a more just and equitable world.